Today we're going to talk about a photographer who's going to go down as the most important photographer of the social media era. It doesn't matter anything about what galleries they've been in, the books they have, or zines, because we're not going to critique their photo work. Even more, we're not going to talk about anything that has to do with social metrics whenever it comes to what you shoot, who your brand affiliates are, and what kind of follower count you have on YouTube or Instagram. Today we're going to talk about what happens when one photographer wants to be the documentarian of the documentarians and the archivist of the archivists themselves. We're going to talk about the effects of making the main thing and making photography about the art and not about the social status anymore. We're going to talk about the impact, we're going to talk about the education, and we're going to talk about the significance of the digital archive he's leaving behind. Let me give you a quick recap of the series, those of you that are brand new. I previously talked about what I've coined the Volantis effect, which is basically what happens when photographers are chasing so much clout, they forgo their own creative route and their own creative ability in order to just replicate what someone has already done. And I don't mean just be inspired and take little hints from there. It's one-to-one replicas, and why that's bad for people's mental health, and even more, just bad for their art in general. The second thing I talked about was the Joe Greer paradox, which highlighted the toxicity in the photography community when a photographer becomes successful. Everybody loves an underdog until they win. Today we're going to talk about Pauly B, his walkie-talkies, what they are and what they're doing for the culture, and more importantly, what the B stands for. So Walkie-Talkies is a series that Pauly B has on his channel known as Pauly B. You can search it up right now if you haven't seen it, but I'm sure a lot of you have because I talk to professional and hobbyist photographers alike and everyone loves this. Walkie-Talkies are an inside look to street photographers or just photographers in general, where they're able to walk around and discuss and talk about the art, talk about their process, and more importantly, talk about what goes through their head during the good and the bad of the photography world. For photographers, this is one of the most captivating series ever. It doesn't matter if you know the photographer or not, everyone has information to give you and everyone has a perspective that is unique to themselves.
I mean, anybody can make a picture on the job. You get access to something. It's really not that hard. Like, pick up your camera and go make something out of nothing. A lot of people can't do that. It's easy to you photograph somebody and you recognize their face. Like 9 times out of 10, people are gonna like those pictures, and it's not, is it really about the image or is it about the celebrity, the talent, the person you're photographing? That stuff is cool and that's a way to make photographs, but just take your camera and walk outside the door. Are you still interested? Are you still, I don't know, man.
It's very simple. Pauly grabs a camera, walks around with these photographers, asks questions, interviews them, and lets them answer candidly. And a lot of times the answers are answers that everyone resonates with. We just thought it was only us feeling these things.
The reason I'm so drawn to this, or I've stayed drawn to it for such a long time, is I've always felt like more of an outsider in my life, more of an observer, rather than an active participant in my friend groups, in my whatever, in everything. I've just always felt like more of an outside observer. I'm also very obsessive, and this practice is like the merger of those two things. This feels like, as corny as it sounds, like this is a very, very natural expression of who I am, I think.
These walkie-talkies can go anywhere from 15 to 30, 45 minutes and have anything from nice anecdotal things here and there to very deep and serious conversations about the arts, personal life, and more importantly, how to express yourself in the world today. These videos are amazing because they do 3 huge things. Number 1, they eliminate this cloud of gatekeeping in the photography community. Gatekeeping is something that is huge in the photography community. We've all seen it, we've all felt it. A lot of us have actually participated in it in one point or another, but we can all grow, and it's easier to grow whenever you have a digital mentor with you every couple of weeks discussing their process, what they do, how they look for certain things, how they edit, the gear that they use, and most importantly, it's communicated in a way to where we actually want to give the information. Not that it's being pulled out of us and that we're being forced to. I don't think people understand how truly important this is. As someone who had a photography mentor and still gets mentored by certain people in photography, this doesn't happen all the time. You've felt it maybe in your community, you've felt it whether it's online or in person. There are a lot of times people that truly have vitriol and hate for your success and won't give you information to help you succeed. Pauly B's walkie-talkies go against the grain with that. These are great, amazing, fantastic artists. They're telling you what they use, how they use it, and what they're doing to get a certain look. You're not just gonna get this anywhere.
With me, there's always this weird tension between Like feeling like if I don't go hard all the time, I'm gonna miss something. And then at the same time feeling like really cavalier about, well, yeah, if I miss something, like there's always tomorrow. And but it's like I'm never fully in one or the other mind. I'm always a little bit at odds with myself about it. And there's all this kind of like, I don't want to say self-hate, but there's all of this self-criticism that I'm a little bit stuck in. But that's the best thing about what, you know, some people might call, you know, the groove, or, you know, just finding yourself in a situation where there's a lot to try for and you just like really throw yourself at it and get really busy, is like all that goes away. All that thinking, all that aspirational thinking, all that self-criticism or whatever, I just feel like so present, and that's the happiest time.
The second thing about these series that's so important is the fact that it is completely free from gear pushing. You will never see someone give an ad for a Ricoh GR3, Canon AE1, Leica M6. Poly-B has walked with people that shoot digital from Fujifilm, Ricoh, or even a Sony A1 for street photography.
Today we're shooting with a Ricoh GR, just a little guy, nice and quiet.
I'm shooting very much unlike many of the walkie-talkie participants, a Sony A1.
People that shoot medium format, large format, Hasselblad, Yashica, Leica M6, Nikon F3, everything in between whenever it comes to film.
Typically, I shoot with the Yashica D, but today I have my baby here, the Rolleiflex SL66.
I'm shooting right now with the Leica M4P with the 28mm lens.
There is no gear supremacy in these videos. And whenever it comes to people that are starting in photography, first-time photographers, getting introduced to a Poly-B video, seeing the gear that he's using and see a Leica M6, it's refreshing to know that more than likely they're going to somewhere down the road while they're binge watching, see someone with a Nikon, see someone with a Canon AE1, see someone with a Ricoh GR3 or Fujifilm X-T3. They're seeing someone who's able to represent them from a financial standpoint and the gear that they're able to attain. Listen, I am against going into debt for photography. This is a huge deal. And for those of y'all that bitch in my comments all the time about how everyone's a salesman, about how if I like a lens and I tell you guys about it, I'm just trying to get you to spend more money, etc., this should come as something refreshing to you. They don't talk about the gear. They don't talk about why they use what they do and why their lenses are better, why this camera system is better, etc. They talk about focal lengths, they talk about processes, and more importantly, they reiterate the fact that it doesn't matter what you use. The most important thing that Poly-B's videos do is push the art. You're getting in-depth conversation, emotional, raw conversations onto why people shoot, why they shoot the way they shoot, what they're inspired by, their fears, their hopes and dreams, all these things from an unkept, unguarded position. It's absolutely beautiful. Whether it's people being very, very vulnerable about the hate they get online for their photography, whether it's people being vulnerable about their family life, being vulnerable about their own situation or what their situation was from a financial standpoint, Poly-B's series covers it all.
Message to the haters. I get to do what I do for a living. I'm confident in my experience, I'm confident in my story. A lot of you guys don't even know my story or know what I've been through to get to where I'm at. Life is literally so freaking short.
Yeah.
Like I want to focus on the art, I want to focus on the work that I'm making. I just keep putting in the work.
I feel like at times I take things too seriously with this whole photograph thing that I just forget to have fun, and when I'm having fun is when the pictures really stand out for me, at least.
Even if the pictures don't stand out, you still had fun making the shitty pictures.
Exactly, yeah.
So who gives a shit?
But there are times when I'm in the zone, I'm just sort of forgetting that this is just like for myself.
Yeah.
And like I'm like shooting for like a goal, but there is no goal. It's like hardwired in our brain sometimes. I feel like with all of it, it's like when we're in the zone, it's like, ooh, kind of have to perfect it, whatever, even though perfection's not attainable.
Poly being the documentarian that he is, making people feel comfortable, making people feel like they're friends, whether he's just met them like he has for a lot of videos, or he's met them or known them for a while, it all feels the same. He's able to ask the right question at the right time to be able to get the correct response needed for you to feel something and for it to be able to resonate with you and you to be able to relate. You guys, this creative journey as photographers right now isn't lucrative for everybody, and it's very unfortunate. I was looking up today for creative jobs, and for a job for $35,000 starting, a 4-year degree was required. That's ridiculous. People want everything an artist has to offer, but they don't want to offer the artist what they deserve. And I'm glad that Poly-B is able to share these stories of these people, those successful and those working their way to success, because we're able to see how they're able to build on each thing step by step. It gives hope. It lets you know you're not alone. And even more importantly, we hear a lot about grinding. You've got to go out, always be shooting, always be working on a project, always be doing this and that. You've got to always have a camera on you. You've got to always have all these rules that we're told by people that we feel have made it in photography. Some of which you find out later on never really did photography as a full-time job. Their YouTube just took off. That it's really, really amazing when we see people on a TV screen be vulnerable about what it really looks like in the real world for creatives. I talk about with other creatives all the time how hard it is to get consistent work at the rate of pay that we deserve for the things that we're doing. It's not fair that we're pitted up against each other, and it hurts, and it really, really sucks. And it's important that these things are documented when these people are being vulnerable. It's important there's a theme across every single person that Pauly B interviews. Joe Greer, Andre Wagner, Scott Song. The work is fantastic, but it doesn't happen instantaneously. The grind is there. Not a grind meaning you grind yourself out because it's all about the grind set, get a new mindset. The grind of having to continually believe in what you're doing and that it's for a purpose, even though you're not seeing the fruit immediately.
I didn't go to college. I didn't want to become a plumber or an electrician. Not to put those professions down, they're completely necessary and they're very important and vital. But I wanted to do something that I thought would be meaningful to myself and maybe meaningful to more than myself, to other people. It's a lot of hardships, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of times. I almost gave up a couple times. Like early on, I cried in front of my ex-girlfriend. I said, I can't take a fucking good picture. I was like, I can't take a good picture. I don't know how anyone's taking good pictures out here. I don't know what to do. So the answer is, why do I take pictures? It's because I have to take pictures, and I want to create something that will be remembered. I don't just want to be a stockbroker for 30 years, have an apartment on Park Avenue, and go to fancy dinners every night. I want to be a photographer that makes good work and goes to fancy dinners every night.
Pauly B shows us the real side of photography. The fact that all these photographers are talented. We all know them. We all love them, and we're introduced to people that truly not only represent us in the photos they're taking, but they represent us in the cultures that they're coming from. And by Pauly taking the time to document these things, he's showing us all of this. From someone like Joe Greer, who was on his last buck in New York City and was shooting photos for 10 years before his big break, to even Andre Wagner, who would spend 11, 12 hours walking the streets of New York, running around Brooklyn, hoping to make something out of the photos that he was taking. Not because he wanted monetary gain, but because he was chasing the love of art. Having the desire to humble yourself so you continue to grow and know that it takes time to get to where you want to go instead of the feeling of entitlement will allow you to be able to continue this slow burn longer and longer and longer and longer until you achieve what you're looking for. In a world of instantaneousity, if that's even a term, that is propagated by Instagram, even though some of you may say, I don't deal with that, I don't post on Instagram, there's still a feeling and a desire for a lot of people, even if it's not you, to be validated by people online. YouTube, Instagram, Flickr, Vero, whatever the new flavor of the month is, it's something that runs rampant in this social media age. And whenever you're hit with this, along with you should upgrade to this gear or that gear, it's going to give you better images, better work, and you associate better images and better work and better processing and better process with the opportunity to get more jobs. It hurts when that money's spent. It hurts when the time's spent. It's hurt when all of you is spent and you're not getting what you feel like you deserve. That's why this series is so important. It's the actual view of the photographer, the actual view of the artist who's fighting for the thing they love, the hope they have in the thing that they love, and the work they're doing in regards to the thing that they love. I think the series is absolutely beautiful. Even more, the feeling I get, and many of you get when you're watching these videos, the feeling of being able to relate to the artist and the good and the bad, whether it's someone younger than me in the craft, older than me in the craft. Let me bring more light to the importance of what Pauly B is doing so that you can completely understand why this is so unique. For us to be able to look back on photographers that we own the photo books of, to look through and to hear from them, it usually happens later on in their life when either they're not shooting daily anymore or whenever they're in a position to where they can monetize and make available through Skillshare or through a masterclass their techniques and their art. we don't have anything like from a Gordon Parks, a Steve McCurry, Henri Cartier-Bresson, even people who we've never heard interviews from, like a Nacho Lopez in their life. We usually don't have anything until later on in their life, never in their prime, never when they're daily in the thick of it. To be able to hear from an Andre Wagner, who in my opinion is at this point the greatest photographer alive and most likely will go down as one of the greatest street photographers ever, to be able to hear his process, his mantras, and a lot of his go-to thoughts, ideas, compositions, and just beliefs whenever it comes to photography is gold in and of itself. For that right there, you're usually paying money for the things that he talks about in his 15, 16, 17, 18-minute video with Pauly B. You have to understand how important this is and how out of reach this education and this sort of digital mentorship has been for every single one of us for the longest time. Even more, it's the fact that a lot of these people, including Pauly B themselves, will most likely end up in some way, shape, or form archived by a museum of the arts, archived by some kind of book, by some kind of publishing. And now it doesn't matter what it is. The work they're doing is not only excellent and amazing, but it's archiving a specific time in our lives where, whether it's through a P word that has to do with a sickness that went around that will get me demonetized, whether it's with riots about presidential elections, social justice issues, etc. In the US, where things have become so docile, and for the longest time, almost 2 decades worth, the media has been owned by politicians and corporations, he is bringing to light a lot of amazing photographers that are catching right now, be it just in New York, what social life and social issues really do in major metropolitan areas and are a reflection of the nation. All those big words aside, basically, no one is doing this. Imagine following Gordon Parks around while he was documenting for a segregation story. Imagine following Steve McCurry around and being able to take time to be able to talk with him whenever he's documenting war. Imagine all of these great photographers during these impactful times and when their impactful art was taking place, and being able to walk with them, hear their process, and hear their heart behind what they're doing. You're not going to get that from them. But Pauly is making sure we have access to those that are doing that for us now in this very moment. You guys, if we want others to start appreciating artists and art at a higher level, which leads to higher pay and better conditions, then we have to start with ourselves. All the infighting, all the analog circle jerk bullshittery where you're too insecure to give someone else their flowers or too insecure to say someone's fantastic photographer because you think it takes away from you, that's got to stop. The gatekeeping, the wanting to keep things to yourself, the not wanting to share intel or teach you on anything, or not wanting to give people the time of day because they aren't prestigious enough, don't have a big enough follower count, or as I ran into multiple times, I can't provide anything until I can, and then you ghost me. That shit's gotta stop. And that's why I love this series, because there's none of that here. That's all I have to say for this. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys check out Pauly B. It's great. Check out his Scott Song video. Scott Song is a photographer that I absolutely love his work. I would highly recommend it. Trevor Wisecup, his Andre Wagner. There's so many people that I can't even name, but I enjoyed every single moment of their videos. There's someone just for you. There's someone for you to listen to, someone for you to learn from. There's a great plethora of knowledge to be able to get from these 15 to 30-minute videos, and I think you should partake. Never stop growing. Never stop wanting to be a better photographer, and never take yourself too seriously. Remember, take your photography seriously, not yourself. And take it light, but take it. Have a good one.